Evening, everybody out there on the stream. Welcome. 3 minutes to go. People could hear that, whoever did it. So you people who were early, you heard that. And I think it was Nick.
Absolutely not. It's Prosecco.
Don't get that on ITV. All right, let's go. Just unmute your mics when the intro's ended. It's Saturday the 2nd of Jan, 2021. I knew I shouldn't have had that bottle. I knew I shouldn't have had it. Welcome back to the Seasiders podcast match reaction show, where we're going to be reviewing what we just watched, which was Bristol Rovers 2, Blackpool 1, as the Seasiders lose in their first match of 2021. I'm John Asper on this Seasiders podcast match reaction show. Bristol Rovers 2, Blackpool 1. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Seasiders podcast match reaction show. Awful start for me there for 2021. Awful. Let's hope it gets better from here on in. Sam, good evening. You're the pro. It was a schoolboy error, that, wasn't it?
Yeah, we it's the best sometimes have an off day, don't they, John?
Here's his dad, Tim. Have you got any evening? You all right, Tim?
Very good. I was chuckling away that you there. It's normally one of us who does that and messes things up. You sure it was one? But you had a cup of tea before as well.
I did. I had a cup of tea.
So some gin in it.
Keep it together. And I've now got a Hatherwood Golden Goose.
Oh, that's very nice.
An IPA from Aldi, where I get mine from. Good evening, Matt. How you doing? Sporting a new Christmas present there by the looks of it. Is that a training top?
Yes. I'm in training after watching another away performance like that. I might need to literally be in training, but yeah, very nice little Crimbo edition there.
I think I've got one somewhere, but it was too small. Must have shrunk in the wash or something, so take it back.
A lot of clothes have shrunk over the last 2 weeks, haven't they?
And finally, we have a new man with us, a new man with a sharp new haircut. No longer a shaggy dog. It's a very dynamic-looking Nick Smith. Good evening, Nick. Good to have you back.
Good evening, everyone. Yes, it was nice to finally get it chopped and get back to some sort of normality on the haircut front. No more fat Justin Bieber.
Tony Beats. Welcome, listeners. Anyway, I forgot to say hello. Hi, Ray. It is from Lidl. You're correct. Ray has corrected me. The Golden Goose is from Lidl. So, yeah, listeners, welcome to the stream. Welcome to everyone on the audio podcast. What we're going to do now is go through what we've just watched, which was a bizarre game against Bristol Rovers where we've dominated, conceded 2 from 2 shots, looked absolutely shocking in the second half, then got on the front foot, but still lost. So here we go. Let's get cracking. So we're going to start with the team lineup. So I'll bring the graphic up now. Get all our ugly mugs out of the way. So Blackpool lined up as follows: Sam Walker in net, Ollie Turton, Ekpateta, Ballard, Garbutt, Dougal, Ward, Kemp, Anderson, Dean and Yates. So Sam, we're going back to the 4-4-2 that we've all been clamouring for. Also no Kai from that lineup. So we happy with that when you saw it and your general thoughts?
Yeah, I think I went for something quite similar in my Friday night preview show. I think the only change, obviously not this hindsight's good, but I didn't put Anderson in my team. I would have gone for Mitchell just to add a little bit more pace into our attacking threats. But to me, I was happy with the starting 11 that Cripsley chose today.
Sam, you sound about 2 octaves lower on the bass. It's weird. Yeah,
You do.
Yeah, so it's like we've got to get a Shaggy on or something.
It's not like you're from LA or something, like an LA. It's weird. It's like you've got an effect going on. Anyway.
It's your equipment you provide here. That's what Blue Icicle.
What have you done to him, Tim? What have you done to him?
He sounds like that. What's he called off the Fast Show? The old drunken man. He sounded a bit like him.
What, Rolly Birkin QC?
Rolly, that's the one. Yeah, a little bit.
Sort of like a deep south LA DJ.
Very, very drunk.
I don't know what's going on there.
I thought it was just me, to be honest. I didn't say.
Yeah, I did. I was, Well, we'll keep it on for comedy effects, though. So, Tim, over to you. Your thoughts on the starting lineup?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, we set out our wish list, or I most certainly set out my wish list on, I can't remember which night it was now when we last played. Wednesday, was it? And I've got to say, I saw the team. I thought, yeah, that's all right. I hear what Sam says about Anderson and whether we might have had slightly more pace in the team. But I've got to say that's probably the team that I would have picked. So I was quietly confident pre-match.
Over to you, Matt. Dan Kemp was the only sort of one for me. I was thinking maybe we might stick Garbutt on the right-hand side. So apart from that, a reasonable. Are we happy with that lineup? Yeah,
I think so. I mean, they teased us by putting Jerry Yates' name right at the bottom, didn't they? So everyone was sort of scouring through it first of all to see whether he's going to be starting. I mentioned on the last pod that we did, I thought Mitchell might have had a start on the left hand or the right hand side, playing as a inverted winger as we do these days. But other than that, I think it was pretty much as we hoped, really, at this particular game.
Finally, Nick, your thoughts on that, on the lineup?
Similar to what the other guys have said, yeah, I think it's probably not far off our strongest lineup with who's available at the moment. It was good to see Grant Ward back in. I think he works well in the middle with Kenny Dougal and obviously Yates and Medine up front. And not playing a 4-3-3 was the main thing for me. I was wondering where Gretterson was, not necessarily starting, but why he wasn't even on the bench. I've not seen anything about him being injured. But other than that, I can understand why Kai wasn't involved because I don't think he's done enough to warrant it after his last couple of performances. So, yeah, overall, I was happy with it.
Right, let's go on to the game itself then. Tim, we started off like a house on fire and went 1-0 after 8 minutes. It's unusual to see Blackpool score such an early goal, and it was a decent move, wasn't it, in the build-up to the goal?
Yeah, I mean, I think just generally we started, as you said, we started well. I like the way we were passing the ball about on the floor. I think that plays to Dougal's strengths a bit when when the ball is being held up on the floor and we're passing it around. I don't think we necessarily kept that going all through the game, but most certainly the first 20, 30 minutes, you couldn't complain about our approach to the game at all. And I think on another day we would have been 2 or 3 goals up. So my recollection is we had a decent ball across from Ballard, I think, wasn't it, across to Ward, and then Ward puts in a great cross, and it was finished with aplomb by Medine, goal machine. So I think most of us thought that was going to be the start of a rather comfortable victory, and but it was well done. It's we've spoken about Medine and Yates, and if you've got one of them in there, neither of them seem to perform well without the other. I don't think Yates had too much to do with that move, but at the end of the day, it's all about having 2 players in and around that area in the box, and Medine showed what a good striker he can be with the way that he finished that, and it's pleasing for Ward as well, because I think Ward, I think he's been a bit unlucky to have been dropped, and it was good to see him make a positive impression at a very early stage, because we spoke, didn't we, on Wednesday night about really to get the best out of that midfield. It seems to be Dougal and Ward seems to be the best combination at the moment, and I think that was proven very early on with his involvement in that goal. We had the commentary from Bristol Rovers today, didn't we? And they had lots of positive comments to say about Ward. It's always quite interesting to listen to the opposition, because we sometimes go into games with preconceptions, don't we, about what we're expecting from certain players. And I remember, I know we'll shoot going forward a bit, but when he was substituted, albeit very much towards the end, they were saying how he's one of our best players today, and I think that's probably right.
Yeah. A quick comment about the commentary team. I thought they were very good today. I thought they were very knowledgeable about both teams. I think it's possibly one of the best away commentary teams that we've seen.
Apart from the pronunciation of Ekpateta, which was slightly irritating, but I think, to be fair, it's not an easy name to get your jaws round, is it, when you've not used to it? So, but yeah, I've got to say, I thought it was quite easy on the ear. And seemed to be fairly balanced, I think, in relation to their assessment as to the game. They knew our players. They knew a bit about some of our players. They were clearly well prepared, and it was good. Rather than have one of the commentators talk about Blackpool's number 6 or number 7, they always seemed to know who they were, and they weren't biased. I think that's the other point I'd make. It seemed to be a very evenly balanced commentary.
Did anyone listen to Chizzy today?
No, I was going to just chip in, John, and say, and they knew what the shirt colour was for a change as well.
Oh, they said tangerine.
Tangerine all the time, yeah.
Right, Matt, we'll come over to you next then. What was your initial thoughts of how Blackpool started the game, and what did you make of the goal?
Yes, it's very similar. I mean, we started off well. We were passing it around comfortably, in and out of midfield, sort of popping it around, etc., etc. Got the goal, which was, I don't know whether that's our earliest goal of the season. I'm not quite sure. We don't seem to have scored too many earlier on, and we were quite comfortable, and for the 25, 30 minutes or whatever it was until they scored. So it was as good a start to an away performance that we've had for a few weeks, really. And it was just, like you said in the intro, it was just a whole sort of a bizarre game in its entirety, really, because at that particular point you never thought what was going to sort of happen later on in the game was ever in the script, really. But we started off pretty comfortably and pretty well. And I thought what was interesting, just to pick up on Tim's point about having the 2 guys up front, is that there was a few times when it might not have necessarily sort of come off or anything, but there was times when Medine was, almost passing it blind, knowing that there was going to be another person in the box, and similarly with Anderson as well. He was just doing the odd sort of positive sort of move like that as well. So a decent start to the game, really, and it was just a shame it didn't carry on, really.
Nick, over to you. Your penny for your thoughts on the opening exchanges.
Yeah, similar to what Tim and Matt have said, we started really well. It was a great ball out from Ballard and a brilliant ball in from Ward. Had all the pace on it. So it's still difficult for Medine because they can quite easily bounce off a shin, but he did what he does finished it really well, and it was fully deserved. And I'd echo your thoughts on the commentary as well. They recognised that we were the better side, certainly in the first half an hour. And I was thinking, like probably everybody else, this could be quite comfortable because it's not a place where we do very well normally. And you're thinking, brilliant, let's keep it going. Obviously, we'll come on to what happened, but didn't look like it was going to happen. We looked comfortable right the way across the park, and I suppose it sums up Blackpool's season, doesn't it? That first half, sublime to the ridiculous.
Good shout for Mark Chamberlain. I remember this. And Walker playing 3 games already for us when. Yeah, I remember the commentator said that. Yeah.
To be fair, they probably thought we played Rochdale, didn't they? Absolutely missed on that. I think the other thing that was particularly noticeable in that those opening exchanges was how much room Garbutt had down the left. I mean, he was almost playing as an out-and-out winger in that first half, and I think they went to close him down a bit in the second, but it was very fertile territory for us. Probably perhaps almost ended up doing the reverse of what we do with CJ Hamilton sometimes, where I think we seem to push that much the pull down that left. It probably eventually caused a little bit of imbalance in the way that we were playing, but it was ridiculous. There just doesn't seem to be anybody playing right midfield for them.
But was getting down there a lot, wasn't it? But his final delivery wasn't great for me throughout the entire game. It was either cleared at the near post or too deep, but we'll come on to that as the game progresses. So just Sam, just let get your thoughts if you sorted your mic out on how Blackpool started the game.
Yeah, testing 1, 2, 3. Hopefully that's better. I blame the other mic, to be fair.
No, hang on a minute. I'll just drop this in. I've always been telling you all to monitor your own audio. That's why.
Anyway, I thought we started positive. And first few minutes, you noticed that we were getting the ball down on the deck and really making Bristol Rovers work, which for me was a positive. Something we didn't see much against Shrewsbury. But yeah, the goal was just, I think the first cross in the box didn't reach the man, if I remember rightly, and it came back out to Ward, who, again, put it in that area where the defender doesn't know whether to kind of drop off and play him offside. The keeper doesn't know whether to come or stay in his line. And Medina, just with the deficit of touches, puts it past the goalkeeper. And as you've all said before, I thought it was going to be an easy game from there. And yeah, I just don't know what happened in the second half.
So we had quite a few chances in the first half. Jerry Yates particularly dragging a couple wide. Dougal had a really good shot. And who remembers that chance? Was it the chance when Ballard was on the right-hand side and he kind of just pointed to his right back to say, right, I'm going to give it you there. But then he switched the other way and stuck it in the box. I think it was Dougal. It's got a bit of quality from Ballard there. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so let's talk about the equaliser. Bristol Rovers 1-1. Brandon Hanlon levelled for the host after making the build-up from the Seasiders. Now, who was at fault for this? Was Ballard at fault?
He slipped, didn't he? It was his sort of ultimate mistake, which is very unlike him because he's been extremely sure-footed, hasn't he, over the last however many games we've played now, 20 games. So he's typical that his first real sort of howler. Typically for us, we concede a goal from it.
Was he fouled? There was quite a lot of chat saying he was fouled. I didn't think he was.
I didn't see that. No, I just thought he sort of made a mistake and the lad went through and then that was it really. So it's sort of like I say, I wrote down typical Blackpool at the time because we were comfortable as we've just mentioned and then one mistake and every time an opposition does a mistake, rarely do we capitalise on it. But when we do a mistake, then the flip side happens and we go and concede a goal. So yeah, for me it was just one of those unfortunate things where it's not like he can learn from it necessarily. It was just a bad mistake, which I think could happen any time. But typically conceded a goal from it.
I think he held his hands up straight away, didn't he? That he knew he made a mistake that cost us a goal. And for a young lad, he's not made many for us since being at the club. So for me, I'm going to let him off on that one. Just badly timed coming to make the interception. But I'm sure it's something as a young lad he'll learn off. But he's not made many for Blackpool. So I think we need to let him off on that one. And it was, to be fair, it was close for offside as well. I wasn't sure if the attacker went a little bit too soon. Obviously very tight. I think VAR was used. It might have been checked, but great finish, to be fair.
Okay, let's move on to the Bristol Rovers second goal, which came on 2 minutes later on 36 minutes. Sam Nicholson volleyed the ball in, great finish, but Nick, sloppy play for Blackpool to allow that to happen in the outset.
Yeah, it's come from a corner, hasn't it? But I have to admit, I was actually on the group chat at the time, just texting saying, I can't believe they're back level. And I looked up and he's hooking the ball home for 2-1. So I quickly deleted that message. It was just like, I'm looking at the screen going, what is happening? Because just going back a bit, we had good chances to make it at least 2-0, probably if not 3. And they hadn't looked like doing anything. Then all of a sudden, in 2 minutes, yeah, it was a mistake from Ballard, but like Sam says, I don't think we can be too harsh on him because he's been fantastic for us. And it was a good finish for the second, to be fair, but it's just this thing again, isn't it? They've had 2 shots, 2 goals. I don't know how many we had over the course of the game, but it's just this lack of ability to put the ball in the net, and it keeps costing us. It reminded me a bit of Doncaster in the second half, that just all of a sudden we let 1 goal in. There seems to be this fragility about us, and we're going to let another in, and it happened.
I seem to remember, actually, Nick, sorry to interrupt, that the stats were that we'd had 6 shots to their 2. One of ours was on target. 2 were there. That was 2 out of 2 shots at that point in the game. So it sort of shows how imbalanced it was in that first 30-minute period.
Yeah, and I think, like I said, I think it probably sums up our season, that, doesn't it? You know, some quite good play, a lot of possession, a lot of chances, and then we end up conceding 2 cheap goals.
We've had 58 possessions to their 42, 21 shots to their 10, 5 of which were on target, 14 corners. And we didn't look like scoring from a single one.
That's the frustrating thing. We've talked about this a lot, haven't we? And it had improved, particularly when Garber's been involved with his delivery. But again, there's so many today where it's either not even getting to the front post, or it's drifted in with no pace on it, or we take a short corner and end up not getting into the box. And it's just like, you can't keep doing that. You know, you've got to get quality into the box, because we've got some tall players in there, and we could be scoring from it, and it's a frustration, definitely.
Yeah, I think on the corners thing, although I'm sure the stats will sort of show that you don't actually score a lot of goals from corners, but the fact
you want a threat, though, don't you, Matt?
Exactly. What I was going to say, exactly that, is that I think apart from, Ballard had a header that went wide, which Yates was never going to reach, and he sort of like, Greg Laganis trying to go after it on the back post in the second half, I think. But that was the only time I think that any of our players won a contested header in the box. And I'm struggling to think of any others particularly ever, almost. And we have got a decent-ish sort of delivery in the main from Garbutt these days. So you just think it's something that we would work on a lot more. And I'm sure they do, but there's obviously something not still right. I mean, God, we've been talking about set pieces since day one, haven't we, this season? And it's still not, a threat, really, is it?
No. That goat sack. A man after my own heart. So need to sack off those short corners who were doing my head in. I was raging at these in the game. It's like, it's a complete waste. Complete waste. Michael Stewart-Haig, we never seem to beat the first man of the end product. Every corner, you can predict the outcome before the corner has been taken. Hard to argue with that, is it?
No, I totally agree. And I don't mind a short corner if they knock it short and the guy it's going to whips it in first time.
Yeah,
good pace.
Early
ball. But when they get it, and then, what should I do with it? I'll spray it out wide, and you've completely lost the opportunity for me doing that.
Do you not think we were doing that throughout the game? We never seemed to put early balls into the box, and we never seemed to get early shots away. Keshi Anderson being particularly guilty of this throughout the game. As I was saying on the chat, he's languid when he gets the ball in a shooting opportunity. Sam, you're raising your hands there. Do you want to come in on this?
You could say Anderson's name. In the second half, he had a glorious chance just outside the 18-yard box, and God knows where it went in Bristol, probably the town centre after that shot. And even just poor, especially professional footballers who should be able to hit the target from 18, 20 yards out. It's just one of those.
He's not even hitting the target, is he?
No, at first half, he swung at one with his left foot, went out for a throw-in. I thought it was a goal kick, but it made it worse when the linesman put his flag up. But yeah, just that lack of quality. You've got to beat the first man. I think at Sunday League or youth football, you're always told to beat the first man. So to see it in a professional game is quite disappointing. But yeah, we just never really looked quality in the final third or that last touch that needed for the goal.
We were poor in the air. The box is from Mark Chamberlain. No threat at all without a player like Nans in there. Devil's advocate there, I think, isn't he? Sort of. It's been put to bed, that Mark, I think, from what Cripsley said in the week, unfortunately. I'd have him back. What's everyone else think? Just let's go on a bit of a tangent.
I wouldn't bring him back. Just we talked about yesterday on the pod that he rejected a really good offer contract in the summer or January, whenever it was, and turned us down and wanted to play at high level. So for me, I think his time's done at Blackpool.
I agree.
Yeah, I would. And I get, he probably would get goals for us, but like Sam says, I think that's opportunity's been and gone. And I think we'll have targets lined up anyway. We've got a decent setup now in the scouting network and recruitment. So I think they'll know who they want to bring in, and it wouldn't have been him. So I think we move on. We do need someone, though. We need an option, definitely. But
I'd offer him a half contract, saying, yeah, you can come back for about half what we offered. Take it or leave it.
That's a Carl Oyster manoeuvre, that.
Yeah.
I would imagine he's got
He did that to GTF, didn't he? If you remember rightly. Was it GTF he did it to? Most certainly, he did offer somebody half the money he'd offered them earlier on in the season.
Might have been Craney, possibly.
Yeah, but GTF didn't fuck off twice, though, did he? That's what I'd do anyway. I'd have him back. What do you think, listeners?
I think the problem is that we would... The argument to have him back is probably there because there isn't anybody else.
Well, that's what I mean, Matt. So who's going to sell a key striker at this time of the year? No one.
Well, I don't know about selling, but there should be some out there that are available at a higher level that aren't getting games, and I think that's probably where we would hope to be looking at. Yeah, I would like to think so. I mean, you see what we got last year in the two lads from the Premiership, and you would hope that there's a couple out there that are kicking their heels, quite frankly, and wanting to get involved in some decent level of football.
What type of striker do we need then? Because decent shout come from DJ Campbell. A DJ Campbell style forward is that's a decent shout that from Steve Hutchinson. So what do you all think? What style of player do we want? Another big man? Do we want a fox in the box?
I wouldn't mind two more attacking options. Maybe one in that number 10 role to kind of link the play up. I think too many times today we were going side, which was useful down the left wing with Garber, but in that pocket between the midfield and their defence, there was no one really dropping in. Medine did it a few times, but wasn't effective. So someone in that area, a bit like a Dobby type player if we can. And as Steve says, I think a DJ Campbell, someone who is going to run in behind because Yates isn't that player and Medine isn't. But I've mentioned Ched, but I think he's off. Ched Evans, I think he's off to Preston from what I've seen. To me, that's the type of game that he thrives on, that he wants to battle with the centre half. And for me, Blackpool's two forwards today didn't want that.
I think one of our problems has been the final third full stop, hasn't it, since the start of the season? Not quite got it right. We seem to be okay, though. I think we're all pretty much hopefully in an agreement that we're okay at the back now. Obviously, we've had problems from 1 to 11 prior to the last few weeks. But I think we're fairly sort of secure as far as the, whichever back four we sort of play, it's, they're okay. Obviously, we've got Kenny Dougal and either Grant Ward or another in the middle of the park. And there's still a lack of creativity from other players. So I think you're right. I think we do need somebody who can, drive that midfield forward and create something for whoever's playing up front. I'm sure Jerry Yates would be a different player if he had somebody who was sliding the ball through to him. But, until we get those sort of players in, we'll never really know. So there's definitely an opportunity for I think, a couple of forward-thinking players to come into the squad in hopefully sooner rather than later.
If you just think about the game today, a lot of the chances we've had have been missed by the midfield, haven't we? And we are lacking goals from the midfield area. So I think some responsibility has to be put onto our midfielders and our wide men.
Virtue's more of that attacking midfield player who does score a few goals. I think Dougal, that the issue we've got on Dougal and Ward, I think are the pick of our central midfield players at the moment. But neither of them are going to score goals, and neither of them are going to score many goals. And I think that's a problem that the management's got to look at, because we were talking just before we came on, weren't we? We've scored 20 goals in 20 league games, and that's relegation. I think if we're not the joint bottom scorers in the league, we're very close to being among the worst. And listen, if you score 1 goal a game, you aren't going to win many. And that's particularly when you take out a couple of take out the whole game where we've scored 3.
I'll just interrupt you, Tim. The bottom 6 have all scored more goals than us.
Yeah, I mean that's shocking, really, isn't it? I mean, whichever way you look at it, we've got 2 quality centre forwards who both cost us quite a lot of money and are on good, no doubt, on very good wages, and yet. And there's something wrong either we're not providing for them. I mean, I've got to say, I think the service to them both was shocking today. Yeah. Bar that one that Medine did score. Yates I don't really remember Yates having a shot. But the number of times I've seen our forwards in space looking for the ball and signaling they want the ball, and we take too long, we're too slow. In with the way we're moving the ball about, and it's a real worry. And I think we've become over reliant on CJ, and when he doesn't play, we're still struggling with that. With how we're going to set up, I almost wondered whether we should try and look at. And I know we've said 4-4-2 because we none of us want 4-3-3 because we just don't seem to even get. I mean, we had plenty of chances today under this system. We just didn't do anything with them. I mean, I know we haven't spoken about it yet, but Garber put that great ball in, didn't he? That went right across the face of the goal just after they got their second, and 3 players go diving on it. Any one of them could have got on the end of it, and none of them did. And that could have completely changed the complexion of the game for the second half, hopefully. But 20 goals in 20 games is, we should be looking to have 50% up on that at least.
Today we've created chances today, haven't we? If you think back to the game, we've created lots of chances and we've just not stuck them in.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the problem?
We need to get a few shooting drills down on Monday morning, I think, because Anderson was probably the worst culprit today. Yeah. I mean, Sam's already alluded to the first one, which went out for throw-in. I mean, in the commentators, they were they weren't biased, but even they were chuckling, weren't they? Saying, I bet he's glad there's no fans in the ground because they got loads of stick for that. And but there was, as we're going to go on to discuss, there was 2 or 3 in the second half as well, where you end up shaking your head at the finishing that we're seeing, which was, a couple couldn't hit a barn door today, and it's worrying.
It's the lack of urgency in front of goal to me. And it's the lack of urgency, and it's not putting balls early into the box. Matt, you were going to say something then?
Yeah, I was going to say there's obviously a lack of natural ability, technique, whatever you want to call it. A natural goal scorers, they just hit the target and they hit the back of the net, don't they? And we just don't seem to have that, in this particular squad at the moment. Is that something you coach? I'm not quite sure. Which is why I think we desperately need a couple of forward sort of based players to come in and give hopefully the opportunity that'll happen, because I just can't see anybody, quite frankly, anybody in that side at the moment breaking double figures at the moment. Maybe Medine might, but that's it.
Oh, for a KDH, eh?
I'm just looking at Sean's comment here. If you put it on, or I can. If we have Otzuma, who was there, I think 43 or 41 behind our front 2, he's that type of player that we need in there that can find that ball in between the fullback and the central defender, or even the amount of times I saw, a few times Yates made a good run in behind the defenders and the ball was never played. Just don't think we have the players to do it, to be fair. They're not creative enough, especially the 2 holding midfielders. But yeah, I don't think Yates did enough for me today. But yeah, if we need to get those 2 attacking players in, I think things will start to turn around. But it is a worrying stat on this scoring 20 in 20 games.
I mean, I feel sorry for Yates because he's just, like we mentioned about Medine on Wednesday night, they're just starved, aren't they? Absolutely starved of any chances at all. And I'm sure that if you see the chances of the goals rather that we concede, and they always seem to be sort of coming from either our mistakes, which was early part of the year, or a bit of decent sort of forward-thinking play. And you just think, would Medine put that away? Would Yates put that away? Probably, but we'll never find out, unfortunately, at the moment,
I mean, how many chances has Yates had when he's just been put clean through, or a nice little pass just to play him in? Very rare.
Well, I think the ones he's had, he puts away.
Oh, he does, doesn't it? Yeah.
You know, when it links up and he gets through on goal, he tucks it away. But we're not giving him that service. Like Sam says, we need that player who's just going to link it up. And the thing is, it's not a brilliant league. And
it's not.
Tim
before,
I know, and Tim said before we came on, I know it's all ifs and buts, but if we'd have beaten Shrewsbury and won today, we'd be fourth. Which just seems crazy, doesn't it? You know, it's not a million miles away, and there's a lot of teams who are much of a muchness. We just need somebody who's going to help make it click.
Jeff's asked, is anybody still doing dry January? I think
Monday. January starts on Monday.
Yeah, it does.
I am Jeff.
A little half pint.
It's still the holiday. It's still the holidays here, Jeff.
I'm in the minority, obviously.
I bet he's got like a quadruple rum in there.
There's cracking in there.
No, there isn't, honestly. Can we do advertising?
As long as he send us some cash. Speaking of sending some cash, thanks to Ed, who has joined the Patreon program today. Hi, Ed.
Welcome, Ed.
Welcome,
to have
Ed.
you on. You remember Ed, don't you? He's been on a couple of times.
Oh, yeah.
I'll put the little ticker on if you want to join our Patreon supporter program. Helps us get better, buy more equipment.
Can't spell extra though, can you?
Too many gins.
Right, let's. As I fix this, let's move on to the second half. 2 minutes in, Nick. Penalty. Talk us through it.
It was a funny one. Did it hit his shoulder or did it hit his hand? You don't really get the replays, do you, on iFollow to be able to tell. Certainly Blackpool players were protesting it. I think it was his shoulder, but without seeing it 3 or 4 times, it's hard to tell. Thankfully, we've got the penalty saver extraordinaire in nets, and this time everybody managed to follow it up and we managed to clear it. I think it was probably justice done. But that first 5 minutes of the second half, I don't know what they said at half time. We were absolutely all over the place.
Bolton under 8's Black's more organised than that. And that's me in charge.
It was worse than Sunday League. We looked like we're still in the changing room, or we just turned up on a Sunday morning after a session the night before. It was bizarre. It really was, because they had probably 3 or 4 chances in that first 10 minutes of the second half, and we were all over the place. It was bizarre. But going back to the penalty, it wasn't a brilliant penalty, but a good save. You know, he's done well again, and we managed to clear it this time, which was a bonus. So, because I think if you go 3 at that point.
I thought as he saved it, it's popped out nicely for the attacker, hasn't it?
I did as well.
Here we go again.
Yeah.
But Ballard was there again. Did anyone notice?
Yeah.
He was the man who got it clear.
Maybe the team watched the pod and realised that they've got to follow up this time, John.
I don't want to be on that still photo this week.
Yeah, quite right. We'll do.
It was good to see us react, and we were very critical on Wednesday, weren't we, about the fact that we didn't react, and the fact that we did was very pleasing, because there's nothing worse, as we spoke about on Wednesday, with a keeper saving a pen, and then the attacker gets a follow up. So every credit to the team for making sure that stayed out. So the penalty incident, gents, Sam, did you think it was a penalty?
Under the current rules, I think it's a pen. I think it's hit him. Unless VAR, it's below the sleeve. I think you get them. I think if his arm's not there, the ball travels through. So for me, it was a pen, very soft, but like you said, good reaction from the players to follow up after the save. Like you said, I thought he was just going to fumble and just spin into the open net, just slow motion. But good for us to react. And but like I said, that should have been the turning point for us to go and chase the game down even more and put pressure on them, which we didn't do until probably the last 10 minutes of the second half.
You'd like to think it would have been a turning point and a wake-up call, but it wasn't, Matt, was it?
Nope.
No, it certainly wasn't. It was like the Keystone Cops, wasn't it? The first 10 minutes. I mean, it does make you wonder, doesn't it? It's not the first time this has happened, is it? I mean, you think of Doncaster away just immediately springs to mind. I mean, Gillian. I thought I'll just put Gillian exactly. I mean, I'll just mention, just put my 2 pence in. I thought it was a penalty as well. I thought what was ridiculous about it was the fact that it was about knee height when he armed it or handled it, however you want to describe. So you got feet and legs. That's what they're there for, to kick the ball. What the hell do you do anyway? It was just bizarre, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then that first 10 minutes and.
Do you remember the one when Hanlon slid in and he was clean through it? And then how he's conspired to put that wide.
Yeah,
we still didn't wake up after that.
Yeah, I mean, if that was one of our players putting it wide, you'd have almost understood it. But the fact that it was the opposition, you just think, right, we have had 9 lives here already in this first 10 minutes of the second half. Pull the finger out, will you, and sort this stuff out. And I was actually surprised that even after 10, well, I say this now, actually, I wasn't surprised when I think about it. He should have made changes at that point and given him a real rocket. But I don't know what was said at halftime, because whatever it was just didn't work. It was embarrassing. It was schoolboy stuff.
Worst half-time team talk ever, in the words of comic book guy. It was comical. It was comical, that 5 minutes. But we've got here on 52 minutes at the other end. Keshi Anderson is denied 52 minutes. I'm trying to rack my brain.
Yeah, he kind of went down the left wing. I think it was played through, and instead of shooting first time with his left foot, he takes another touch, which allows the goalkeeper to come out and make himself a lot bigger than he should have been. And to me, another player, a left-footed player for me, scores in that situation. But like I said, I don't think Keshi had the best of games, but I don't think he's a winger, so I don't think that helps him personally. Like we're talking on Wednesday, whatever it was, after Shrewsbury, that who was on the left wing wasn't playing. So whoever Kai playing out left, that he's not a winger, so why are we playing players out of position? Keshi's no pace, prefers down the middle, played well against Portsmouth. I just don't know why we're playing him out there, but I should have scored that in my opinion.
That goat sack again. I'm picking your comments, mate, because it's funny. Yeah, should have been 4-1 down. It's hard to argue. We should have been dead and buried by then. And
on the flip side, we should have been dead and killed the game off in the first half. So in a way, it cancels itself out. They're missing chances and us.
It was a strange game, that's for sure. We had a penalty shout of our own on 65 minutes. Gary Medine grappled inside the box, much like what we described in the previous match reaction show in the England game, when they were wrestling our players to the floor. And it was a penalty for me. It was a penalty.
I think generally, I mean, me and Sam were talking during the game, and just generally we thought Medine got absolutely nothing today. They seem to be grappling him, leaning on him. And I don't know whether it's because of his reputation or whether it's because of his demeanour while on the pitch. But in some games, he seems to have got every single foul under the sun. I think Doncaster first half springs to mind. And today he got absolutely nothing. And I wonder whether that's sort of filtered through to the penalty shout, because that ref just was not having it, that he was being fouled, and he was. And I think it was the same at Shrewsbury on Wednesday night as well, if I remember. So I don't know what's going on there, but it was just an observation. It wasn't just one. It must have been. I think there's about 10 fouls on Medine that weren't given, and I think on another day you'd have got 6 or 7 of them.
I think it's because he's such a big bloke, Tim.
Yeah, probably. I think
they think he must be able to defend himself and put himself about. So it could be a reason why. So as the game closed out, we made 3 changes on 79 minutes. Mitchell, Woodburn and LeBarlett on for Kemp, Keshi and Anderson. Now, shout first, whoever wants to talk about substitutions. Tim, I knew it was you. I knew you were going to say it. Go on, away you go.
For what? Too late. I mean, Matt touched on it before. That game was crying. I mean, I'm not a great fan of mass substitutions anyway, and I think 3 at once is still too many. Never mind 4 or 5. But that game was crying out from the 60th minute for the introduction of 2 subs, because it was patently obvious to me that Anderson was underperforming. And whilst I thought he had a reasonable first half, I also thought Kemp head had gone down. The body language wasn't right. For me, there was 2 obvious substitutions, even if you just make one of them. And Matt had mentioned, after that, I don't like Adrian Durham, but he does that heads gone thing. Our heads had gone in that first 10 minutes of the second half, and one of the way to address it is to hook somebody and bring somebody on. And I think 1, if not 2, should have been in around 60 minutes. Bringing them on after 80 minutes if you want to change the game, in fact, it was at 81, 82, whatever it was, it's too late. By the time they've bedded in, it's too late to make a difference. And we needed those changes on 60 minutes for me. So I'm a bit disappointed that we didn't see at least one sub. I felt that Mitchell for Anderson or was probably the one, and I would have put Mitchell on the left. I think Mitchell ended up on the right, didn't he, replacing Kemp. So that for me was the obvious first one to give us some pace down the left. But yeah, too late when we're chasing the game. I believe in keeping it tight when we're winning or when we're holding on for a draw. But, it was obvious to me after 60 that certain players weren't going to improve.
Anyone else want to come in on the subs before we knock it on the head?
I'd reiterate what Tim said. It's too late, and then it's 3 at once. And by the time they've found the feet embedded in, the game's over. It's you do one after an hour, maybe 1 5 minutes later. I don't disagree with who came off and who came on, but doing it all at once with 10 minutes to go, it's just too late. And it keeps happening. It's bizarre.
Right, so as the game petered out, we didn't have enough substitution. I think this was a slight injury to Garbett. Was it Garbett went off, didn't he?
Yeah, Garbett.
Yeah. And we had Ethan Roberts coming on for Grant Ward. What's the point of that with a minute to go? Like a broken pencil, pointless. But we did have one final chance. Bez Labala. What the fucking hell was that?
He had a good shot just about 2 or 3 minutes before, hadn't he? He had a really decent chance, and the keeper saved it, and it didn't quite fall out to one of our two players. But yeah, you've got to say the one that was missed in injury time was.
That's our best chance of the game for me. That.
Oh well, yeah, without, and it would have been a face-saving point, wouldn't it? So it's very disappointing because it's a gilt-edged, quite easy chance, really. I mean, not to hit the targets is criminal.
I think it comes down to what we mentioned earlier about the guy shooting from range or hitting the stands instead of the back of the net. There's a lot of technique involved or lack of, and something like that. That's what you see on a Sunday morning job, isn't it? Lean back and smack it as hard as you can.
Yeah.
Just summed it all up, really, didn't it? That second half, and that was it. Very poor.
I think the other thing. Sorry to interrupt. If there's something else coming in, the other thing is I was quite surprised we took Yates off. I know Yates had been relatively quiet, but I don't think it necessarily was his fault. But when you're chasing the game, and again we've gone back to the fact that having the two strikers up front is what has tended to work the best for us. To take the striker off when you've got sort of 10 minutes left, who if he does get that chance, is likely to hit the back of the net, was a bit surprising for me. I think I would have probably left that one alone and probably left Woodburn on the bench and left Yates to play out the game. Because I don't think Woodburn's always got the ability to change a game, but he's not an out striker. And they were always going to sit back for that last 10 minutes. And I found that one a bit. As a manager, when you want that point, you're going to leave it. For me, you're going to leave your strikers on the pitch.
Yeah, I want to just bring in what Lawrence has said. Lawrence Moore in the chat saying Labala scores out if he's given a run of games, and for me, that's just someone who's lacking a bit of confidence and someone who's not probably played 10, 15 minutes here and there as a substitute. And for me, he has got that bit of quality for me that can unlock defences, but we just haven't seen it due to lack of game time in my view. So whether it's on Cripsley or Bez, I think it's a bit of both really, that someone who's firing all cylinders puts that on the back of the net, in my opinion.
It's a chance that you do 9 times out of 10 in training though, isn't it? So the fact is in gameplay territory shouldn't really matter. He should still have the ability to put that away. I'll just add my bit about the subs or the Yates substitution as well in particular, is that you're 2-1 down, you're away from home. Quite frankly, I'm a case of, right, well, if you're 2-1 down away from home with 10 minutes to go or 5 minutes to go, you might as well be 3-1 down, So you just got to go for it. Well, you leave your striker on and you maybe go 3-5-2 or 3-4-3, so you can play Turton as a third centre half. You could have brought Husband on, you could have done a couple of tweaks and then put more proactive players on instead. But it just doesn't seem to be sort of working out any of these substitutions. I don't think many or any games have proved successful in that particular point, unfortunately.
Quick comment from Chris Harrison. The key point in there, Anderson looked knackered and should have been pulled earlier, then introduced him gradually. I agree with that, Chris. I think making 3 at a time is just stupid. And I think Tim's already said it, but it's costing us week in, week out, this. And I don't know. I don't get it. I don't know why he's doing it. So hopefully they go back to the drawing board and they sort out these substitutions. Right, let's move on to the next section, which is player ratings. So from front to back, I've still haven't got a Sam graphic. So Sam, what do you think was?
I don't think he had much to do, really. I actually don't remember us saving at him having to make. I think his kicking was good again today, coming for crosses. The penalty save, which for a goalkeeper to save 2 in 2 matches is probably unheard of. For me, couldn't do any better with the first goal. Second goal, I think he's unsighted with one of the central defenders, but I think it's give him a 7. I think maybe even higher, but probably it's 7 for me.
Okay, Tim, Ollie Turton.
Yeah, not for me. One of his better games. I think his distribution going forward, he frustrated me on occasion today. Did Ollie? I think there was a couple of, there was on the chat, people were having a thing about Kemp and saying Kemp's quiet, but quite a few times Kemp was in positions where a relatively straightforward early ball would have put him into a dangerous position, and it never seemed to happen. So I think he was okay, but only okay. So I'm going to go with 6.
Okay, Matt, Big Marv.
Didn't do an awful lot wrong, really. Got away with a couple of not deliberate stepovers in the first half, shall we say? But other than that, he was pretty solid. So a solid 7 out of 10, really.
Okay, Nick, his centre half partner, Mr. Ballard.
I'm not going to be. I know he made a mistake for the goal, but then he was also involved in our first goal with a great ball out, and he was winning a lot in the air. Their commentators were mentioning him all of the time. I'm going to go 7.
Your dad's favourite, Sam, Kenny Dougal.
I thought he'd missed the defender out there, unless you do it in numbers. Dougal. I was ready to thingy for Garbett, but
you can do Garbett then.
Garbett, I thought very positive in terms of so much space down the left-hand side. 50, God knows what chances were on crosses, but some decent deliveries in the box. That one that flashed across the goal was decent. Some decent corners, but most were probably played short or hit the first man. But for me, I think I've got to go for an 8. I think he's my man of the match for today, But I thought he had an excellent game down the left, and we're only seeing the start of him, in my opinion.
King Kenny, Tim, was he regal today?
No, I think he was the pretender a bit today, wasn't he? It was okay, but I think there was probably too many examples. For instance, when we play well, he's playing well. So in that first 15, 20 minutes, he was good. He was playing it simple. It was on the floor, keeping possession, little triangles going on with the other midfield players. Great. And then he was one of the players, I think his head seemed to go in that second half. And there was also at least 2, if not 3 instances of him playing blind balls that were going straight to the opposition, or playing across the midfield and it being intercepted. And they can be very dangerous things. So he needs to cut that out. With a heavy heart, I think it's a 6 off me today.
Oh, Tim.
I think it's a 6, and only because he's such a good player that for me he's underperformed today by his own high standards, and I think we need to get the Kenny Dougal back from about 4 weeks ago, because he's a match winner. He dictates the tempo. He's our conductor. When he plays well, we play well, and he didn't really today.
Need to get him back on that magic roundabout, right? Matt Grant Ward.
Yeah, I was going to say Kenny Dougal's playing more like a bus conductor at the moment, unfortunately. But never mind.
It's ever since he moved next door to your mum and dad, isn't it?
I know, it's it. Yeah, my dad must be plying him with all his whiskey that he's been storing for Christmas. Grant Ward. Well, for 45 minutes, it was a 9 out of 10. I thought his first half was really excellent. I thought he was everywhere. He was keeping the momentum of the game going. He was popping up on the right. He was just involved all over the pitch, really. And then, it was just anonymous in the second half, like some others, definitely. So I would say a 9 out of 10 in the first half and a 6 out of 10 in the second at best. So
the average of those two, then, won't they?
Well,
7 plus.
Yeah, I'll give him a 7.
Had a plus or a minus.
I'll give him a 7. I'll give him a 7.
Nick, Dan Kemp.
Yeah. To be fair, he didn't get a lot of the ball, particularly in the first half. It was all coming down the other side, so you can't blame him for that. He looked okay, but again, nothing spectacular really. So
he's not really cemented his place in the team.
No, there was Shrewsbury and then today to really maybe one of those games to take his opportunity. I'd probably go 6.5. Can't go more than that.
I thought he was.
Sorry, go on, Sam. I was going to say, I think that's what's disappointing today is that obviously the squad know that Hamilton's out for a few weeks, so Daniel Kemp's obviously got the shirts today.
It's the opportunity, isn't it?
Just didn't take it, So it'll be somebody else's chance presumably next week against West Brom. So
I think people are being harsh on Kemp. I think first he had that really good chance where he nice bit of skill to get past the defender. Shot was blocked. I think no one's there. It goes in the back of the net. I thought it was a lot better today than he was at Shrewsbury. A lot more in the game, but like you said before, when the ball was going to Garbutt all the time, he kept coming inside in the middle and just, like I said, never got on the ball as much as he probably could have done. But I thought it was a lot better today. And there's so many people on social media calling him out. I don't think he was the worst player. So I'm going to back Kemp up on there.
He wasn't the worst player, I'd agree. But at the same time, he wasn't the best either, which is why I've gone for 6.5.
We can't do point. Round it off, Nick. Come on.
6 plus.
6.33 recurring.
Right, Sam, you've got a good one now. Keshi Anderson.
What did he get in midweek? A 4, was it? Or
no, he got.
I gave Kai 4.
Okay, I think he's on the same thing as Kai today. I think his movement, his attitude stunk for me. Never tracked back. If he did, it was half-hearted jogging at his best. 2 chances, one 20 yards out has got to hit the target for me. Do we give him a lows of 4 or 5? I'll go for a 5, but I don't know what he did. I don't know what he did well today. To be fair,
I'll come back in.
Go on.
I'll say he did exactly what Kemp did. And I thought the first 25, 30 minutes, most things were coming through Anderson. I thought, but
there's no end product though.
No, that's the thing. It's the end product that we've been saying all along, isn't it? But I think he faded as quickly as the sunlight at the moment.
It's more his attitude. I think just if you're playing in that 4-4-2 formation, you've got to work back in those areas. And one, he's playing out of position, in my opinion. He's got to be in the middle, where I think he against Portsmouth was influential, linking up the play. But to be out there when we need pace, for me, it's the wrong tactics. But yeah, I don't think he had the best game today.
Yeah, you feel like going up to him, grabbing him, and just shaking him. Saying, come on!
You could do that with 3 or 4 of them, like we said on Wednesday, though, John. Anderson, Kai, Woodburn, Zabala to a less extent because he's not getting games. Kemp as well. The whole list of them. It's the same sort of style of player, but the same style of problem, unfortunately, isn't it?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But
because you would think they're getting game time at the moment. Kemp, like we spoke about Kemp before, spoke about Anderson. Where they've had to wait out on the subs bench, and you'd think they'd be desperate to keep hold of the shirt, but they don't. Now, I'm not saying that they're not, but they don't give the impression that they're desperate to keep hold of the shirt. And so, you look at the body language, and the body language was gone at 65 minutes with both of them. And that's why I don't understand why they weren't replaced earlier, because then you'd have probably looked at both performances a little bit more positively, because hopefully we'd have had players who've come on, who've changed it a bit. But they were left, for me, they were both left on the pitch 15, 20 minutes too long. And, he's got his attributes, Anderson, but he didn't, in the second half, he didn't really show them, I don't think. And I think that's a reflection of the scores he's getting. And, with our scorings, we want to be positive, don't we? We want to be positive, but you've got to be realistic as well. And there's no point in giving people 6s and 7s when the reality is that they don't deserve them.
Not the 4s and 5s, Tim.
Yeah, they've got to be. They've got to be right. It's got to be right. It's got to be right, because when they do play well, we can't be giving them 10s all the time. It's got to be measured, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean,
if you want a couple of 10s to give, though, surely the next 2.
If you want to play in that languid style, a la Chris Waddle, you've got to be as good as Chris Waddle. And if you're not as good as him, you've got to be putting effort in. You what?
Just not at penalties.
No. He's got a point, though.
There's a few Chris Waddle shots.
I just don't know what Anderson's done since joining the club. He scored the goal against Portsmouth, which was good, but I've never seen him put in a personally, or maybe that game, an 8 out of 10 performance week in, week out. And I think that's some of the frustration. Maybe where I've gone for a 5 today. That he just needs to do it on a more consistent basis, whether it's down the middle, playing off the striker in maybe a 4-3-3 formation as the season or years go on with Cripsley, hopefully, that we see the best out of him. But I just don't know where his best position is at the moment, and it's definitely not on the left wing.
No. Right, Tim, Gary Medine. I'm going to make a quick say on Gary Medine. So one thing that was slightly annoying me today was his control when he wasn't holding balls up, and there was a lot of ball kind of bouncing off him. I don't know if anyone else noticed that. So what was your overall view of him, Tim, today?
Obviously, he took his goal well. I think a couple of people have been speaking on the message for the benefit of the audio on the message service that goes down the side of the screen, and I've picked up on a couple of things where when I mentioned that he didn't seem to get his fouls today, that perhaps in previous games he's gone down too quickly, too early, and too softly, and that refs are perhaps a bit are looking at him a bit more harshly from that perspective. Where I think there were fouls today that he could and should have had. The goal was good, but other than that, I'm sort of with you a little bit. I don't think the interplay between him and Yates was quite there today in the way that we'd want to see it. Equally, I think the midfield. And I'm looking at Dougal, Ward, and the 2 wide, Kemp and Anderson. I don't think the service from them to the forwards was anything like what it should be. But we've had 14 corners, no clear headers off them. It's a 7. So it's a competent performance, but nothing spectacular.
Matt, over to you. I think the same might apply to the final player in the ratings, Jerry Yates, scratching your head there.
Well, I'll just keep it brief. I think he was starved of possession and chances, which is a recurring theme we've said. He still puts effort in, but unfortunately, just today just wasn't there at all. Really, I think he had a shot chance in the first 15 or 20 minutes. I seem to recall. So, God, 5 really from me.
Right, that was the player ratings. Let's quickly do man of the match. Nick, over to you. Man of the match and why, very briefly.
Yeah, slim pickings. I thought Garbutt got forward really well and did some good stuff, but at the same time, some of his delivery wasn't always quite there. Beyond that, I'd probably say the keeper. Because he saved a pen and he did what he had to do pretty well. He couldn't do much about either of the goals. Didn't have a lot to do, but there's not a lot else to choose from, to be honest.
That's 2 and 2 for Mr. Walker, isn't it? 2 and 2. Yeah. Sam?
I said before when we were doing the player ratings, Garbutt for me, we got criticised ourselves for giving best ratings to defenders, but I'm going to give it more for his attacking play today, Garbutt. I thought going forward, it gave us an outlet, and a shame about some of his deliveries, but overall, for me, he stood out against Bristol Rovers.
Tim?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Sam. I was a bit frustrated with Garbutt's set piece delivery today. I don't think he beat the first man anything like enough, or if he did beat the first man, it went right over the top of everybody, which isn't what we've got used to with him, because that's part of the best part of his game, effectively, isn't it? His set piece delivery. However, taking the set pieces aside, I thought him getting forward today, he was almost playing as a left winger, and to a certain degree, he had the luxury of nobody seemingly against him in the first half. But I think when you look around the team, I think the keeper did okay. He was probably the next, but I still think he maybe could have done something with that second shot. Perhaps he was unsighted. So he was solid, but I'm going to give it to Garbutt.
Yeah, I mentioned before as well. I thought Grant Ward played well for 45 minutes, then just disappeared. But I thought Garbutt was pretty much, I wouldn't say head and shoulders, because there weren't many head and shoulders to get above today. But he was always involved in things, wasn't he? And as much as certain people don't like his sort of defensive attributes, I still think there's a place for him, possibly in front of Husband on the left-hand side. There's definitely something missing on that left-hand side. But if we're going to continue playing inverted wingers or whatever you want to call them, I don't think that's going to happen. But yeah, I think Garbutt was my MOM today.
I'm going to go for Grant Ward. He did fade a bit in the second half, but I think he was a tidy all game and a Vaughan-esque performance. So Grant Ward. So we just to close out, we've got a comment coming in from Cliff. It's quite pertinent, so I thought we'll just address this in the panel before we go. Cliff says, poor player attitude is a reoccurring theme in your last two post-match analysis podcasts. How would the panel address this? Who wants to come in?
I'll come in first. I think the easiest thing is to either give them a rollicking or take them out of the team and make them earn a place in the starting 11 again, because I think there's too many players today that shouldn't have carried on longer than the 60 minutes mark, which we talked about, which isn't their fault. It comes down to the manager at the end of the day. But I think you've got to take them out of the team and make them work hard on the training ground, because just need that hunger and that desire that we're just lacking in the last two games.
Matt, over to you. You've kind of flagged this comment. So, A, do you agree with it? And B, what's the solution?
Well, yeah, I mean, unfortunately, it does seem to be a recurring theme at the moment. And, being football fans as we are, that's sort of our prerogative to moan and groan a lot and blame players' attitude. I think, to be honest, it's maybe just an unfortunate sort of situation that we're in at the moment, that we're not allowed in the ground. And I just wonder whether certain players would act differently when they've got 5,000, 10,000, whatever people behind them.
I think Christian Anderson might, Matt. I think he's the sort of player that might.
Yeah, some players thrive on it. Some players go in. Yeah, some players thrive on it. Some players go in the shell. Maybe we've just got a team that need a verbal rocket or a verbal encouragement, obviously, to help them along. But unfortunately, you're sort of seeing them in their, as it were, in the natural sort of environment. So it's a tricky one, because we can't all, scream through the TV or laptop or whatever it is that we're watching it on. How would you address it? I don't know. It just comes down to, hard work and trying to be, positive attitudes. And I think by hopefully getting a couple of players in January will bring maybe the quality of the squad up a bit, because I think we're just finding that top quality that you need just isn't there in this squad at the moment. And I think we just need a little bit of an addition or two to maybe pull a few up by the bootlaces.
Anyone else want to come in on this just before we close out, Tim?
I think when we talk about attitude, I think some of it is body language, and I think some players have a natural body language that probably makes them look like they don't give a shit when they actually do. And so I think it's a bit harsh on the players to say they've got bad attitudes. I do think there's a couple of players who aren't quite good enough for us at the moment. And I think the biggest thing that Cripsley and the management team can deal with over the course of January is recruitment, because what we saw in last January, but whether by design or by luck, was we recruited extremely well in the loan signings that we brought in January. And that transformed what had been an average team to a very good team. And I think that's the difference with us at the moment. I don't think the loan players we've brought in have added value. And when you look at KDH and when you look at Connor Ronan and you look at Taylor Moore, we had 3 players there who literally were 3 of the best players on the pitch. Ballard, fantastic. Keeper, to be fair, great cover for ours. But probably in that attacking third, we haven't got that little sprinkling of gold dust that you're looking for. Fairy dust, probably more than gold dust. And I think that's probably where we need to look. We need to look at, and I was quite a fan of Kemp, and I was a big fan of Woodburn. But interesting, your mate from Oxford, Steve, isn't it? Commented about Woodward. We saw Wood. Our perception of Woodburn is based on his performance when he came to Blackpool, and he was quite negative about him, wasn't he? And saying that they didn't really rate him. And I'm starting to understand why now. I think where he could have been the fairy dust, he isn't. And I think that's where we need to look, because that could transfer. We spoke about that. Nick said the comments I made before. We're sick. If we'd won these 2 games, and we should have won both games based on our abilities in the last 2 or 3 months, we would be 4th now and we'd be buzzing. And we can still do it. But we can do it. But we need, if we've got Virtue in that team, we've got CJ in that team today, I think we win.
Yeah.
And I think we've got to be realistic. When we talk about player attitudes, we're not talking about the whole team. We're not talking about the whole team's performance. But you have 2 or 3 players underperforming on the pitch, and it affects everybody else. And I think if we have strength on that left, which it's a prominent position for us, that left-hand side of midfield. If we have CJ back and we have somebody pushing the front 2 as another option, then I think we have a side, because we've sorted the defence. We've pretty much sorted centre midfield. When we've been unlucky, we've lost Virtue, but it's those wide positions when CJ is not available, and it's competition for the front 2, and I think we get that, and we've probably just about there. I think we can still push on, and we can still have a great second half of the season. But the lads who've come in, who've had the opportunity, for me, they've demonstrated why they're on the bench, not why they're on the pitch.
Right, so just before we sign off, I've just noticed Neil Cripsley's post-match reaction has appeared on Twitter, so let's have a quick listen, and then we'll say adieu.
Neil, when you've had such a strong start and foothold in that game, how do you reflect?
Great audio as ever.
Reflection that game we should never have lost. Got off to a perfect start. Something we'd spoken about, something we practiced yesterday, the first goal. Something we'd highlighted and thought we could do, an aspect of our game we could have done better with from the Shrewsbury game, and we practiced that yesterday, and it was a perfect start. And even after that, I thought we had some really promising situations, some real good bits of play. Got up in and around the final third and around the penalty box often. And then, a mistake has cost us the first goal, and then a goal out of nothing, really. Didn't defend the cross well enough, didn't get close enough. It's an excellent finish, to be fair, from the boy. But you're 2-1 down, and you're thinking they've not really been in our half or been near the goal. So at half time, we thought, if we keep doing what we're doing or keep playing how we're playing, it'll come down to what we do in the final third of the pitch. And all our play until the penalty area was excellent. And unfortunately, that's what's decided the game today for us. It wasn't lack of effort. We did everything to try and get the equaliser, but our quality in final third, which was the same on Tuesday night, has cost us the game today.
What does that come down to? Does that come down to composure, or just to keep plugging away at that?
A variety of many different things. We tried different personnel. You could see that. It doesn't matter who we had on the pitch. Our final delivery.
That's unlistenable now. What enough of that?
Shot, final pass into the box. Most of the time,
I'm not listening to that for 6 minutes.
It was interesting when he said there was no chances in the first half, and then his second half, and there was a long pause, and I thought he was going to say, then we thought we'd give him loads. Take your pick.
Bristol Rovers certainly moaned down Blackpool's performance today. I'm trying to think of any grass-related puns, that kind of thing.
Tumbleweed was that?
Yeah. I think what was interesting was he sort of, he talks about the personnel being changed and things like that. Yet in a previous interview when he was talking about January window, he doesn't seem to think that there's going to be major sort of changes, one or two. But you think
I think there he's talking about different players in the pitch, isn't he? In terms of bringing the likes of Labala on and Woodburn, it just didn't work, did it, in front of goal? And it's one of those games I think where there are positives in the build-up play and everything, but just lack that quality and composure in the final third, which he touches on. So I think it's quite a fair assessment, really, of what he says.
Closing thoughts, then, gents.
I think Cripsley there looked as gutted as we did about the way the game panned out, and I think I see that as a positive because, and I think I'm not saying it was a swipe at a couple of players, but I think he's almost there in the roundabout way, alluded to what we've alluded to, in that he's brought players in. No doubt have been knocking on the door of his office saying, "Why am I not getting a start?" And I think they've given him his answer, and hopefully he's going to realise, which I think we need to recruit well. We don't have to buy them; we have to recruit well for this second half of the season, and I'm hopefully he's got those contacts that can do it, and we've done it well. We've done it well in the past. We've got Ballard's great signing. Let's have two more.
There's probably a case you might argue for Woodburn and Kemp maybe going back and getting two more in who could
decent
nail down a first team place like we saw in January.
Yeah.
They're just not affecting things enough, are they?
No, they've got to be better than what you've got. In order for you to push on, and for us to push on this year, those lone players have to be the best players on the pitch. And if they're not, well, there's no point in having them. For me, there's no point in having them. And that's no disrespect because I want Kemp to do it. I want Woodburn to do it. But at the moment, they're not. And if we've got an opportunity to say, right, well, we've tried that. Let's try two more now. Because Ballard has come in. Ballard is, there's a bit of an argument over Gretterson, isn't there? Because there's an argument actually to play three at the back and with two with two wing backs to accommodate what are our best players at the moment. I don't know whether Gretterson's injured or not. I suspect he is, otherwise he'd be on the bench. But with KDH and with Connor Ronan and with Taylor Moore, we had three nailed-on starters week in, week out. And that's what we want to replicate. And if we can do that, I think we can get ourselves into the playoffs.
What else just before we go?
No.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year. We've lost already. What else is there to look forward to?
My kebab that's arriving in a minute.
The perfect 10 to get us into the playoffs.
Yeah. I'll just add that Oxford have just gone above us today, and you wouldn't have thought that the last time we played them. So it's still up for grabs. We're only half a dozen points off the playoffs or whatever, aren't we? So who knows? We might get on a bit of a run and, come September or whenever this season actually finishes, we'll be in a much better place.
Yep, right. So thanks everyone for joining us this evening. Thanks, Sam.
Yeah, hopefully more positive things to come in the future. It's nearly there. It's just not ticking at the end. But like I said, I think if we can bring in the right players, we can go on a run and hopefully see us in the top six come the end of the season.
Yeah. Cheers, Tim.
Yeah, and a belated Happy New Year to everybody. And I'm quite sure that we are on the right track. It's just we have our say, don't we? But I think we will get there. And as I said, I'm looking forward to 2021. I think we're going to have some good times coming our way.
And Matt, we're going to be back in the stadiums, hopefully.
I'm not so sure, but maybe this calendar year, but maybe not this season, perhaps. But
then.
One step at a time. I don't know what I'm number 9 on the list. I know Tim's probably about number 4, isn't he? But
right, thanks, Nick. Anyway, enjoy your kebab. What are you having?
Chicken. I think.
From Cyprus.
No, Cleveley's.
Okay. Right, everyone, listeners, just before you go, listeners, I always say listeners, viewers, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. If you've not done so already, do it now, please. Do it now. And you've got to hit the notification bell, apparently, Sam, haven't you? I've learnt this on for you.
Mm-hmm. Yep. You just hit it, and every time you go live, a little notification button comes on your phone, so you won't miss any of our top quality shows.
You could do your Bob Geldof bit. Go on, do it.
No, I'm not. You've already done that, Tim. Can't be as impassioned as you. So yeah, I'll play the outro button. How about that? Thanks for joining us, gents. Thanks for everybody watching on the stream. Your support's really appreciated. Makes the show better. Thanks for downloading the audio podcast. And all that remains to be said is thanks for downloading, thanks for watching, and up the pool.
Up the pool.
Yeah.
Ollie's already changed the world. Small town from the north of England with a great tradition.